If you're thinking of buying the RTX 3070 used right now, it's about $250. This comes with 8 GB of VRAM and it's probably gone through the mining process, which doesn't have warranty. Now, if you add $50 on that one, you can get the Intel B580. If you add $50 more, then you could probably get this by the power supply bundle. And this one comes with 12 GB of VRAM, has a fresh warranty. So it's a pretty interesting option. Is the Intel B580 a solid option over the raw performance of the RTX 3070? And what I can say to you is that the Intel B580 is a wildcat. We're gonna run both of these cats in multiple games, and we're gonna run it at 1080p, 1440p, and 4K. First game, boys, is ARC Raiders, and this is 1080p low settings because we want to have maximum visibility and we want to see those rats, right? At 1080p, you're getting about better frames with the Intel B580. Solid stat, and that's even better lows. Let's go to our next game. Cyberpunk 2077, and this one's at 1080p ultra settings. In here, it's about really close to each other, and the lows do go to the RTX 3070, but it's pretty close in terms of average FPS. We'll see how this one turns out when we go up the resolution. Oblivion Remastered, now that this game is a game that demands a lot of VRAM, and you can see that it's actually pushing the VRAM in here. There's a lot of stutters in this game, which is normal. And on terms of performance, we're getting better frames with a 3070, but the lows do go to the B580. Let's move on to our massive multiplayer shooters, and let's start with Battlefield 6, and here we go, 1080p. It's a bit of a mixed bag, right? You get about better frame rates with our 3070, but the lows do go to the B580. The next game is Delta Force, and on our walking benchmark, you're getting better FPS with our B580. That's about 9% better, boys, and the lows are even better. Let's see how it goes on our firing benchmark, and in the firing benchmark, the lows still remain with the B580, but the raw frame rates do go to the 3070, which is pretty close, right? But in this case, I'd rather prefer the lows, higher lows in these type of games. Next up is PUBG. This one, we're getting really high FPS, 240 for both cards. And if you're just going to compare head to head, it's pretty close, right? About like 3% on terms of the average frame rate. Now let's move on to our competitive games, wherein we really need consistent frame rates and higher lows. And first up is Fortnite. This one, boys, we're getting 300 plus FPS on performance mode DX12, and it looks like our B580 is actually better in terms of raw FPS, but the stability still goes to our NVIDIA card. Let's go to another game, Valorant, and this one's a CPU intensive game, but the GPUs do play a part in terms of stability, and we're testing it out in this heavy action scenes, and the Intel B580 is actually much more stable here compared to our RTX 3070. Let's go to our hero shooters now, and we've got Apex Legends at 1080p competitive settings. Wow, look at the lows, boys. The Intel B580 is just much more stable in this heavy action scene. Let's see how it runs on our static scenes. Not so much. The 0.1% lows do go to the 3070, but in terms of lows and average FPS, it's more or less the same. Another hero shooter is Marvel Rivals, and Intel B580 just gets demolished here by that 3070. That's 12% less compared to the 3070. Not bad, but I would have assumed that Intel would have actually pushed the B580 to be better performing in Marvel Rival. Helldivers 2 now, and the 3070 is just better here. Superior compared to the Intel B580. 10% better compared to the Intel B580. Let's go to another game. Path of Exile 2, and boom. Look at that one. Now, this game naturally favors NVIDIA cards, but you can see that it's about 10% less with our B580. Last game that we have is World of Tanks, and we test this game because we want to see a different engine. Ultra SD settings, native 1080p. We've got really high FPS. Now, this game does have strong preference to NVIDIA cards. The RTX 3070 is better compared to our Intel B580. Before we proceed, just letting you guys know, I've set up a Patreon page wherein I will post extra stuff, and it's totally free for you to sign up, especially if you want to see the settings that we've used. Join Patreon for free and you will be able to see that. If you want to support me financially, you can do that too, and you could have early access to our videos and your name in the video, like Billy over here. Thanks, man. Thank you for our first paying Patreon. Let's go with 1440p, and here we have ARC Raiders once again. DLSS on our RTX 3070 and XEXS on our B580, and look at that one, boys. The Intel card is showing much higher lows once again compared to our 3070. Cyberpunk 2077, now we've got upscalers in here, but we still maintain ultra settings. And wow, look at that one. The Intel B580 is actually better here compared to our 3070 in terms of average FPS and the lows. Look at that one. Boys, that's very impressive. Here we have Oblivion Remastered. Once again, the VRAM is really pushed, so we're seeing better lows with our Intel B580, and that's probably because the 3070 has maxed out its VRAM. Going back to our massive multiplayer shooters, and we've got Battlefield 6 here with upscalers. Once again, DLSS 4 on the 3070, XEXS on our B580, and the win goes to the B580 a little bit, but still a win. And in Delta Force, looks like the lead of the B580 is not as high. Here we do have upscalers once again on both cards. And on our firing benchmark, the 3070 is slightly better on average FPS, but the lows do go to the Intel B580. PUBG, the Intel B580 isn't meant for PUBG. That's a huge difference, right? 10% difference between the 3070 and the B580 in terms of the lows. Going back now to our competitive shooters, Fortnite performance mode, DX12 at 1440p, and look at that one, boys. Once again, the 3070 is much more stable in terms of the lows, although the raw FPS do go to the B580. I would say that I'd probably lean towards the 3070 still on this case. Let's go to Valorant, and here we go. Valorant competitive settings at 1440p. Boom, look at that one, right? Intel B580 still the winner here and just crushes the 3070 in Valorant. In Apex Legends, heavy action scenes, and the lows still go to our Intel B580. There's a small difference there in the average FPS, which could be margin of error. When we go to our static scenes, 26% better in terms of 1% lows, although the 0.1% lows do go to our 3070. Marvel Rivals, once again, the B580 is getting crushed by the 3070. No question. Just pretty bad. I hope the Intel guys are watching this video. I would definitely suggest that you try to optimize Helldivers 2 now at 1440p, and the 3070 is clearly superior here compared to our ARC B580 on the running benchmark, and on our stratagem benchmark, it's mostly the same thing, right? 3070 is still about 12% better compared to the B580. Battle of Exile 2 once again, and we've got upscalers in here, and this game just loves NVIDIA cards because the B580 is just getting crushed again. Just no chance, man. No chance. World of Tanks, and we've got Ultra SD in here, 1440p. You've got good FPS for both cards, but it still goes to the NVIDIA RTX 3070. It just crushes the B580. All right, let's go with 4K. Now we've got upscalers in here and ARC Raiders. We have DLSS performance on the NVIDIA card and XEXS performance on the Intel B580. And look at that one, boys. Intel B580 is still better here compared to the 3070. We haven't maxed out our VRAM because we are using low settings, right? And Cyberpunk 2077, we've got ultra settings in here, but we've got our upscalers at performance settings, and the Intel B580 is actually good here, 20% better compared to our 3070. VRAM isn't maxed out. The B580 is still better here compared to the 3070. In terms of PUBG, this one goes to the NVIDIA card. 127 FPS against 115, so the 3070 takes the win here. Let's go to World of Tanks, Ultra SD, 4K, native. And once again, the 3070 is just better here compared to our Intel B580. The Intel B580 can definitely play the game, but it's just a better experience here with our 3070. Okay, if you look at this one overall, the Intel B580 at 1080p is about 3% less in terms of average FPS against the 3070, but it does compensate it with the lows. There's about 3% better in terms of the 1% lows and about 15% better in terms of the 0.1% lows. Although this is mostly because of Helldivers 2. If you remove Helldivers 2, it's only about 1% better in terms of the 1% lows. When we go up to 1440p, once again, the Intel B580 is not as high in terms of average FPS. It's about 3% lower compared to the 3070. But in terms of the lows, it's kicking back. We're getting about 5% better in terms of 1% lows against the 3070. In terms of the 0.1% lows, it's about 36% better. However, this is mostly due to Oblivion. If you remove Oblivion, because the 3070 did run into like a VRAM limitation there, the advantage of the Intel B580 vanishes and it's only about like 2% less in terms of 0.1% lows. When we go to 4K, in terms of average FPS, they're a bit the same. In terms of 1% lows, the Intel B580 is actually better here, about 4% better. And on the 0.1% lows, it's 5% better. In terms of the 4K, it scored high on the DX12 games, but it loses out on the older DX11 games. And as I mentioned before, the Intel B580 is a wildcat. You really can't predict on where it's strong. I mean, the only game that it was consistently better against the 3070 was ARC Raiders, and that's because it's a well-optimized game. And surprisingly, it's also good at Valorant, and usually this is an arena wherein NVIDIA cards are better compared to, like, say, AMD. If you compare just both of these guys, there's no standard rule here. You can go with either. The Intel B580 is more like an all-rounder. It could be better in some games or a bit weaker in some games, especially Marvel Rivals. However, if you're playing these games and you're also doing other things like video editing or something that utilizes 12 gigabyte of VRAM, like AI, then the Intel B580 is actually a better choice compared to the RTX 3070 used. And on top of that, you also get the fresh warranty. And if you want to utilize the bundles, then you can do that too. Any card that has a lot of VRAM is starting to increase in price. Now, one of those cards is the RTX 3060 12 gigabyte. Now, it's about $300 now. Used. Now, if you have one or thinking of getting one, we match the RTX 3060 12 gigabyte against NVIDIA's latest entry-level card, RTX 5060, in this video right here. Click this one. Click. Click.